Welcome guys to my channel. Guys, this is my third video of SC900 Security, Compliance and Identity Fundamental course. So guys, in this video we will cover the topic of module 2. Like in my previous two videos, we have covered topic from module 1. So here we are going to learn describe identity concept. Let me increase the font. So now guys, when we talk about identity, everyone and every device has an identity. As a user or the device you use, it has an identity, and that device you use to gain access to the resources. When you will now talk about securing your environment to protect your identity, this process is actually known as identity and access management. And when we talk about identity and access management, it is actually made up of two key steps: identity and access management is two key steps. One is authentication and another one is authorization. So identity and access management is made up of these two key steps. Now, there are some common identity attacks. Common identity attacks. Password based attacks. Is very common one. Password based attack it includes spray attack and brute force attack. Spray attack or password spray attack. Attempt to match the user against a list of weak password. Now let me write it. Attempt to match a username against so there are list of users or the user is there and it's try to match the password. If you use a weak password, then it will try to crack it. Now if we talk about the brute force, so in brute force attack, it tries many passwords against one or more accounts. So these are password based attacks. Now we have these are all your security threat. Security threats, or you can say types of security threats. We have password based attacks. Password based attacks can be spray attack or it can be brute force attack. We have phishing. We have spear phishing. Now, if we talk about the phishing, actually in phishing, the attackers, they send you email. They send emails. And the emails actually appear to be came from very reputed organization such as like IBM, Dell, Microsoft, to gain your trust. And the email may contain credible stories It may contain security breaches. It may contain the step to follow to sign in process. It may also contain how to change your password. Now, instead of going to the legitimate websites, the user will be directed to the scammers. Those are scam. So you will be redirected to the scammers websites. You will enter your username password and the hackers or the attackers, they will capture your username password. The hackers have become more sophisticated. And it is also become very difficult for us to identify the emails even. So if we make a mistake, so they can easily deceive us. If we talk about the spear phishing, it is also a type of phishing. Here the attackers or the hackers, they build a database of the information about the users. And then they craft the credible emails. And the emails actually seems to you like it came from your CEO, your director, your managers. Now, this can be detected easily if you are careful. You may get an email from your account department. So be careful. Remember that it is called spear phishing because it is highly targeted. So we have to implement some kind of highly and sophisticated monitoring and security mechanism to deal with such kind of attacks. In Azure AD, we have identity protection. So if any suspicious action is detected, it can detect the risk. Now we have two types of risk. user risk and sign-in risk. User risks represent the probability that give identity or accounts to be accomplished. Your username, password is stolen. So, user risk. Your account has been compromised. User risk. When we talk about the sign risk, means it represents the probability that given authentication request isn't authorized by the identity owner. Now, if we talk about identity as a primary security perimeter. Identity as the remember that identity has become the new security perimeter that enables organizations to secure their assets. Identity is how someone and something can be verified. Identity means verifying your identity. Identity verifying you are. Which is done by the authentications. So someone or something like your device. You and your device both are authenticated. So it may be associated. Now when we say we have user, we have application, we have device, and we have some other things. When we talk about today's era, in today, our traditional perimeter based security model is no longer it's secure or is no longer enough. As an organization, it has become very important for us to secure our identity. Our identity can be associated with a user, an application, or a device, or something else. There are 4 pillars of identity. There are four pillars of identity. First, administration. Administration. Administration means it involves in the process of creation and management of identity. Identity for a user, device or a service. As an administrator, you can manage how and under what circumstances the characteristics of the identity can change. Like you can create, you can update, you can modify, you can delete, you can restore, you can enable, you can disable. So these are the actions related to the administrations. We have authentication, we have authorization, and we have auditing. Authentication is like verifying your identity. Authorizations, which is the third pillar of the identity, is related with the access right. What can you do after you successfully authenticated? So it determines access level. Now, when we talk about the auditing, it is tracking your activities. Tracking your activities such as like what, when, where and how actually the authenticated user perform the task. It actually helps you to create in-depth reporting. It can generate alert and governance of the identity. Now, if we talk about modern authentication, so we have modern authentication is kind of an umbrella. Which is used for authentication and authorization methods. Authentication and authorization method between the client and the client. Client can be your phone, it can be your laptop, it can be your tablet, your device, and the server. How authenticate or what method of authentication and authorization has been used in between your client and the servers? That is come under the modern authentication. And at the center of the modern authentication is the role of the identity provider. identity provider actually play the vital role. Identity provider create, maintains and manage your identity informations. When we talk about identity provider, which is responsible for managing your modern authentication of your organization, is responsible for all the services which include authentication services. So when we talk about the central authentication provider, central authentication provider is, if we talk about on-prem, Active Directory, and if we talk about cloud, then Azure Active Directory, AD. It actually provides us modern authentications. Azure Active Directory. So let's talk about cloud based, which is Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory help you to manage your authentication and authorization when it comes to cloud. Azure Active Directory is a Microsoft implementation of the cloud identity provider, or you can say it's a cloud based identity provider. Identity provider. Let's do like this way. So it is a cloud-based identity provider. There are other providers also. For example, we have Google, we have LinkedIn, we have Amazon, we have Twitter. They are also identity provider. Now, we have single sign-on concept. Single sign-on, single sign-on, which is supported by the modern authentication. With a single sign-on concept, you can log in from multiple server using the same username password or using the same credentials. So you can access multiple applications, resources. And when you set up single sign-on, so when you set up single sign-on to work between multiple identity provider, actually that time it is known as federated service or authentication, or you can say federation. So when you set up single sign-on to work between two or multiple providers, identity providers. For example, you have on-premise and you have cloud, and you configure single sign-on in between both, so that will be known as federation, federated trust, or you say federated service, or you say federation. Federation service actually help you or enable you to access services across the organizations or the domain boundaries. It actually establishes a trust relationship between the on-premise and cloud, or between two organizations. And if you go with the federation, you don't need to actually maintain multiple username and password when you access your resources from one domain to another domain. The same username password can be used to access the resources. Now, if we talk about directory service or Active Directory. Active Directory, if we talk about, it's a hierarchical in structure. Microsoft actually has introduced the Active Directory, the concept of the Active Directory with Windows Server. So the concept of the Active Directory they have introduced in Windows Server 2000. First time they introduced this. And this is actually developed by Microsoft. Developed by Microsoft. And it is a on-premise domain-based network to manage so it is used for managing your devices on the local network, or you can say on-premise network. It is actually known as Active Directory Domain Service. Active ADDS in short. ADDS provide you centralized management of your identity. With which you can manage your infrastructure. You can use this Active Directory for managing your Windows based devices. You can manage your identity. It actually provides you single sign-on also in your on-premise environment. It stores your informations of your user device, services. It can validate your credentials. And the computer on which you install this service, the computer on which you install and configure this service, that is called domain controller. The computer on which you install and configure Active Directory domain service, that is known as domain controller. Point to note. ADDS does not support mobile devices. Now, not only mobile devices, what about the software as a service application? It cannot support. And what about you have some line of business application? Line of business application which need modern authentication. So Active Directory won't able to fulfill this requirement. And as the cloud services is growing and the requirement SaaS based software as based applications are growing, support for mobile devices, remote login are growing. So we need Azure Active Directory, which is designed to meet this requirement. So Azure Active Directory, Azure AD It's a cloud based, as I already have defined. It's a cloud based identity provider. So sometimes we also refer this one as a identity as a service, as in short IDAAS. Identity as a service. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this video will also help you to enhance your knowledge level. Guys, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe and share my video with your friends and colleague. Stay tuned. See you in my next video very soon. Thanks guys.